Good evening, teacher. The members of the group are Mercy Bellasis, Kerlis Fiallos, Joana Chagya, Cristina Salazar, and my person, Araceli Andaluz. We are going to explain about autonomous one. A conceptual framework on the technology integration in English writing flipped classroom. In this article, explain the flipped classroom takes every pillar of the internet for things which are things. People, process, and date. The things in a flat classroom are the computers, tablets, and the smartphone that the students use. The teacher and the students are both active in the flat classroom model. The through educational platforms like Google Classroom and Microsoft Teams, the data is sent. The traditional classroom is transformed by the flat classroom by making the theoretical portion of the lesson be completed outside of the class and making the lesson practical application the primary emphasis on the class. However, there is still little study in the flat classroom in Malaysia, particularly for English-speaking primary school kids. Consequently, this paper seeks to close this research gap by developing a conceptual framework. Next. A conceptual framework for an intelligent planning unit for the complex built environment. In this project is the built environment systems which are distinct in character and have distinct design, construction, and operation process. As a result, is to organize and maximize the necessary resources in a timely manner and at the same time establishing and optimize the flow throughout the process of the complete built environment system. This study seeks to develop a conceptual framework for the three-phase intelligent planning unit for the complex built environment system in the order to achieve this goal. The physical competence and operating process of the complicated built environment systems can be broken down into through full units to define the UIP, and after that it can be improved through a refinement process that makes use the intelligent communication functions.
Okay. Conceptual framework in the research process by Lucy Martinez. In these documents, we will be able to analyze importance to the theoretical framework that support the research to be carried out. We include not only the theoretical assumptions from which the researchers start, but also the ways to research collects in data, which in the turn determine the limits of the types of analyze that can be used and analyzed from the research who performs analyze on the topic to be a trip considering in the perspective related to education and learning the select topic. It is also advised to start the research from the most recent to the oldest. This helps to research to clarify his ideas and hypotheses. Next, please. Okay, the second article is the pedagogical knowledge based in the ELT, a conceptual framework by Darwin Modern University has collaborations for actors. The present study provides the theoretical frameworks for the pedagogical knowledge based in the following language teaching applied ELT. The objective is to analyze the categories of knowledge used in the classes, which has achieved by the pedagogical knowledge categories and the classification of 6 teachers of English as a foreign language by means of the simulate recall technique. First, the six teachers were interviewed about their pedagogical language using their teaching practice and 10 subject matters experts and experience with a EFL. Teachers with a interview to know their options and results in the model are the seven components of the pedagogical language in the ERT. Has knowledge of language, knowledge of teaching, knowledge of learning, knowledge of classroom management, knowledge of learners, know, knowledge of culture, and knowledge of context. Thank you. Next, please.
Okay, the first article is going to is about the foreign ways of thinking in learning activities on English teaching lesson plans and senior high school. This article is tries to explore the ways of thinking, critical thinking, creative thinking, and problem solving in the learning activities for the English teaching lesson plan in the senior high school in Jakarta, Indonesia. Through several studies that we carry out, it was determined that the complete lesson plans were not implemented on 100%, for which the researcher results will not obtain. Well, several limitations were found regarding problem-solving skills. And also, there were many high schools that refused to submit their lesson plans. Therefore, the researchers suggest that the senior high school be more cooperative with the lesson plan designer, and the researchers maintain their research ethic. Next. The second article is about critical analysis of Bloom taxonomy in teaching creative and critical thinking skills in Malaysia through English literature. This article tries to identify the gaps in Bloom taxonomy for ingenious people, which is important to promote creative and critical thinking most students in Malaysia through English literature. For the taxonomy, oversimplify the nature of thought and the relationships to learning. But the learning English literature involves a process in Bloom taxonomy, lower other thinking skills. But the students are not native English speakers and live in a non-English speaker environment. And in conclusion, the teaching and learning of English literature should foster creative and critical thinking skills instead of focusing only on the English language proficiency. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Now I'm going to explaining about the last two articles that we have today. That is the integrated approach to English language teaching in EL2 classroom, a conceptual framework. As you see in that part, this article is approved because it is fine. It is publishing in the year 2015. And that part of that abstract that I found is that the English is growing in different files. For example, files like thread or international thread, where is important the use of that language. Also, it's important that the students have knowledge in ELT. But what it is ELT? ELT is the English language teaching. Students, for example, with a poor linguistic competence, maybe it can be done by an unuseful method of teaching. For example, the teacher in class apply a method that is unnecessary for the students. Yeah. Also, in that part of the article, it shows a little example about students from India. Those kind of students had finished the school, the high school, but the big problem that mentioned in that part of the article said that they can find and also they have problems to get a job. So ELT and ICT, that means TICS, technology, information, communication. It is like, for example, focus on technology. So with that advance, the students can have an advance in the language because they can find different apps to learn the language, or they can um, find new strategy or stay in contact with the language with other persons. Uh, and the last article, it's about a conceptual framework for integrated STEAM education. Um, Also, this article is accepted because it is published in the year 2016. And that part of the article mentioned that the ESTEAM, that means um, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Um, it is very difficult to find teachers that have in knowledges the four areas, as mentioned before, the science, technology, engineering, and math. It is very difficult to find this kind of teacher. So the teacher tried to make a connection with that system in this case, but in the other hand, students sometimes are not interested in learning different difficult areas like science or mathematics. Uh, if we can find another easy subject, obviously the students will be accepted.
Okay, we also have several authors like Michael Toby and so on, who consider the lesson plan as unequal. However, they also focus on a law that develops three phases to contextualize. These they refer to evaluating, planning, and designing scenarios for all the needs of many students. Also propose feedback through a analysis that achieves us a final goal. And according to the author Alexander Chishick and Stella Chishick, the lesson plan has been modified for a long time. However, despite the Bloom's taxonomy method has contributed a lot of they consider, focus, and propose the reconceptualization of lesson plans. That helps much more to students benefit from knowledge. The reconceptualization of the lesson plans is part of the growing movement toward research of preparing, teaching, and helping students reason and success.